The Supreme Court of Appeal has rejected an appeal by the National Credit Regulator that wanted the South African Fraud Prevention Service to delete reports of fraud after 1 year. The SAR, the banks and other companies that offer credit facilities use the Fraud Prevention Service to share details of those who have attempted to defraud them. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Manny van Schalkwyk, who is the Director of the South African Fraud Prevention Service. Good evening, Manny. Thanks very much for your time. Take us back. I mean, why did the credit regulator want this data, I mean, the Fraud Prevention Service, to delete reports of fraud after a year? What was the thinking behind that?
All over you, and thank you for inviting me. I think there's an interpretation of a law where the regulator felt that fraud information can be seen as the same as negative credit information, and because of that interpretation, then felt that it needs to be removed after 1 year. We, on the other side, felt that you cannot treat a criminal or a person...
Can't really equate.
Yes, that is deliberately deceiving and representing himself or herself to get a benefit with somebody who lost their job and can't repay ITCAs. You know, it's two distinct different people and should be treated differently. So they took it to the tribunal a couple of years ago, and then the tribunal agreed with the National Credit Regulator, and we took it on review about 18 months ago to the High Court, and we won that case. The regulator then took it on appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and we won that case. So we can actually retain the fraud information for 10 years.
What was their argument?
I think the argument was that as I said, they believe it is credit information, and we said it's not. I think it could be how the words is interpreted in the Act, but
one would have thought it's like logical.
Yeah.
It's logic, common sense.
You should ask the question to them, yes.
Yes, I know, but I'm trying to perhaps understand this. So what does it all mean now that, I mean, the ruling has been upheld?
Well, I think it means that we can now keep the information legitimately so for a period for 10 years, and we feel that, and we've tested this data before, we feel that the data is predictive for a period of 10 years, because these fraudsters come back into the system, they try their luck again after a couple of years, and we want to prevent them from accessing.
In fact, that's exactly where I was going. Yeah. Perhaps you may want to explain your thinking, whether you think it would serve as a deterrent, you know, to potential fraudsters or also those who have committed fraud before.
Yes, and typically what happens, especially in the credit environment, you know, people will steal somebody else's ID, they will create a false payslip, they will create false bank statements, and with that false information create another identity, try and to defraud the credit providers in terms of money or product. And that is, and they do it more and more and more. So it's not only a once-off and they give it up. They really do it variable times. They come back into the system, and that's why we keep the data for longer. If we only kept it for 1 year, like the judge said, it's nonsensical, because you would take the tool away from credit providers to protect them against fraudsters.
And of course, among the consequences of this is that you get people who have to pay for sins that they never committed.
Absolutely.
And it takes a long time for the facts to be established and for an honest person to actually clear themselves.
Absolutely, and the easiest way to explain the consequence of that is if we take away the instrument, the credit providers would have more losses because they would provide credit to these fraudsters. They would have more losses. What happens if they've got more losses? They have to up their prices, and who pays for that? The more expensive prices is people like you and me, who will be honest guy in the street. So to take away an instrument like this is not protecting consumers. It's actually doing the converse.
How widespread is identity theft, and of course these kinds of schemes where people steal people's identity and information and then?
Well, what our statistics are showing is that we saw an overall fraud increase last year of 21%, listed compared to the previous year.
And of that?
And of that specifically, the identity fraud, where people steal somebody's identity, which is a real identity and real name, increased by 101% last year, and increase on the previous year's 89% increase. So we see that statistic is doing
that. So it's
that.
become a lucrative business.
Yes. So it is vital to keep the tool in place to list these people who are stealing somebody else's identity.
I can agree with you, Mo. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.